I've decided I want a pet termite. I'm going to call him Clint. Clint eats wood. Today, I'm going to recap a 2023 action crime film called Mother's Day. At the start of the movie, we meet a woman named Kiki who works at a car junkyard. Kiki's life has been tumultuous since her husband's passing, and she frequently drowns her sorrows in alcohol. One evening after having her fill, she stops by the liquor store to stock up. As she's heading home, she spots two women being menaced by some young gangsters. Kiki confronts the troublemakers, telling them to leave the women alone. But the young thugs don't take kindly to her interference and decide to target her next. A scuffle ensues, and while Kiki initially holds her own, her inebriated state and reluctance to truly harm them make her ultimately back down. Upon arriving home, Kiki drowns her sorrows yet again. The following day, she is seen observing a family from her car. The young man in the family is, in fact, her biological son who now lives with his adoptive parents. She spies on him, not out of malice, but out of a deep longing to be close to him. Soon after, her close friend Igor surprises her. Igor, who is an intel officer with the police, understands her pain but reminds her that stalking her son is illegal. To console her, he takes her to the gravesite of another close friend, Nowak, who served as a major in the Special Forces. Later, we see Kiki following her son, Max, on social media, grateful that he has loving adoptive parents. But the next morning, while making breakfast, she's startled to see a flood of notifications on her laptop. Scrolling through, she discovers posts from Max's friend saying he has gone missing. As his biological mother, Kiki feels an overwhelming need to find him and sets out immediately. Kiki's initial reaction was to seek guidance from her best friend, Igor. She inquired if Max's adoptive parents had already informed the police about his disappearance. Igor confirmed that they had reported it, but to Kiki's dismay, his superiors had tasked different officers with the investigation. She pleaded with Igor to share any leads from the police's findings. Igor, however, declined, citing he didn't have the jurisdiction to do so. He attempted to console her, suggesting that Max, now grown up, might be with a friend. Still, Kiki persisted, asking Igor to update her if he ever stumbled upon any information. Subsequently, Kiki made her way to the adoptive parents' residence, sneaking into Max's room. With the parents at the police station, she had the time to score the room for clues. Her search was in vain, but she narrowly escaped detection when the adoptive parents returned. The following day saw Igor in possession of a significant piece of evidence, Max's cell phone discovered at a crime scene. He informed Kiki that he had a short window to examine it before returning it to the police. Upon accessing the phone, a voice message was revealed. The message was from the alleged kidnapper, who identified himself as Deuce and Dragon, the offspring of a mob boss previously taken down by Nowak, a dearly departed friend of both Igor and Kiki. This revelation bewildered Kiki, as only she and Igor should have known the connection between her, Max, and Nina. That evening, Igor paid Kiki another visit, armed with more information. He had recently attended an intelligence briefing where details of an international crime syndicate came to light. The syndicate was led by a diplomat known as Beauty Queen, who, while not directly involved, orchestrated the crimes in the country. Serving beneath the Beauty Queen was an individual named Woltomierz, or Wolto for short. Wolto, depicted as a bald and brutal figure, is the hands-on operator of the syndicate's activities. Serving right below him is Tytus, his trusted lieutenant, who dutifully executes Wolto's orders. Igor then reveals CCTV footage, capturing the very moment when Max was abducted by Wolto's subordinates. This evidence suggested that Deuce and Dragon had employed Wolto's team to abduct Max. A distinctive feature Kiki could gather from the footage was the insignia of a restaurant, Yam Yam, on the abductor's vehicle. The narrative then shifts to Wolto, engaged in a phone conversation with Deuce and Dragon. Confirming that he has Max in custody, Wolto demands his payment. In response, Deuce and Dragon propose sending an initial 3%, promising to remit the balance once Max is handed over. Meanwhile, Kiki, acting on her lead, is staking out the Yam Yam restaurant. She confronts some of Wolto's henchmen, demanding to know Max's location. When they remain tight-lipped, a skirmish ensues. Having subdued them, Kiki presses again for her son's whereabouts. Relenting, one of the men discloses that Max is with Tytus. Without wasting time, Kiki speeds off to Tytus's hideout. Upon her arrival, she witnesses a group of captives, poised to be trafficked overseas. Scanning the group, she hopes to spot Max, but to her dismay, he isn't among them. Resolute, Kiki then covertly infiltrates the premises in her continued search for her son. The scene transitions back to Wolto, receiving another call from Deuce and Dragon. They inform him they've transferred the initial 3% of the agreed-upon ransom. Elated by the profitable deal, Wolto divulges that Max is being held at Tytus's location. Simultaneously, Kiki finds herself in a fierce brawl with Tytus, with several of his men seeking to eliminate her. After gaining the upper hand, she rushes to free Max, only to be blindsided by a blow from Tytus, rendering her unconscious. Tytus quickly contacts Wolto, urging him to arrive since a woman was attempting to whisk Max away. Shortly, Wolto and his crew converge at the location, only to discover that both Max and Kiki have managed to break free. Displeased with Tytus's ineptitude, Wolto uses his ever-present taser on him, effectively eliminating him from the equation. Subsequently, Wolto reaches out to the syndicate leader Beauty Queen, updating her on the massacre of his men by a formidable woman. He also dispatches CCTV footage to her, showcasing Kiki's handiwork. On viewing the footage, Beauty Queen is taken aback, recognizing Kiki and revealing that she's familiar with her identity. Meanwhile, as Kiki drives Max to safety, he bombards her with questions about her motives. Kiki remains tight-lipped, enduring Max's incessant chatter. Upon arrival, Max makes an attempt to bolt, prompting Kiki to act forcefully. Contrary to what Max assumed, Kiki doesn't take him back to his adoptive parents. Instead, she secures him in a hidden location beneath her dwelling, intending to shield him from Wolto's gang. Later, Kiki prepares a meal. Max's complaints persist, questioning why he wasn't returned to his adoptive parents and even raising his voice at her. The narrative shifts to Igor, who receives a visit from his estranged daughter. It becomes apparent that she, along with her mother, distanced themselves due to Igor's impoverished lifestyle. Igor makes an effort to persuade her to visit him more frequently, but she bluntly declines, expressing her reluctance to return to his humble abode. Subsequent to their conversation, Igor's daughter swiftly departs, advising Igor to amass wealth if he wishes for their family to reunite. In the midst of his contemplation, Igor's phone rings. It's Kiki. She urges him to reassure Max's adoptive parents of his safety. Regardless of his personal challenges, Igor always prioritizes assisting Kiki. Later, while Kiki takes a breather, she's jolted by the sound of Max's voice as he attempts to contact his adoptive parents. Swiftly intervening, she snatches his phone and, without second thought, destroys it. Kiki had previously warned Max of potential phone taps on his adoptive parents' line. This revelation infuriates Max, demanding his release. Observing his distress, Kiki reveals her true identity as Max's birth mother. She recounts the tragedy of his father's assassination and how they two were targets. To safeguard Max, she had left him in an orphanage, where he was subsequently adopted. As proof, she hands Max a can containing evidence of her claims. However, their location has been compromised due to Max's phone call, and Wolto's gang closes in. Kiki instructs Max to take cover while she confronts the intruders. As 3 of Wolto's men burst in, guns blazing, Kiki waits for the right moment. As they reload, she pounces, overpowering them. Emerging from her subterranean hideout, she continues her battle with the remaining assailants outdoors. Kiki then strategically leads them to a nearby abandoned structure. Meanwhile, Max examines the contents of the can Kiki provided. It discloses Kiki's true identity as Nina Nowak. This indicates that the grave visited by Kiki and Igor was a diversion, a move to mask her tracks. It emerges that Nina was a special forces major tasked with dismantling major mob operations. The scene transitions back to Nina, still locked in combat. However, she ultimately prevails, neutralizing Wolto's men. Simultaneously, Max arrived at the scene, witnessing Nina having just dealt with Wolto's gang. Despite the revelation of their true relationship, Max opted to head back to his adoptive parents, seemingly brushing off Nina. Given the circumstances, Nina understood his reaction, recognizing the overwhelming nature of the truth. Elsewhere, the police were busy seizing a vast sum of money from Wolto's residence, totaling in the hundreds of millions. This immense wealth was, in fact, the property of the syndicate leader, Beauty Queen. From afar, the Russian diplomat's son looked on, arriving too late to intervene, and could only watch in disbelief as the funds were transported away by law enforcement. The following morning, out of concern, Nina visited Max's adoptive home. Overcome with exhaustion, she suddenly collapsed. Thankfully, Max's compassionate adoptive parents cared for her. Upon regaining her senses, her first concern was Max's safety. They assured her of his return. However, Nina's relief was short-lived. She received a distressing call from Beauty Queen, who revealed Max's abduction. To secure his release, Nina would need to return the confiscated money. It appeared that on his way home, Max was ambushed and kidnapped by the Russian diplomat's son. Desperate for a solution, Nina approached Igor, seeking access to the seized funds. Initially hesitant, Igor eventually conceded due to Nina's persistence, promising to assist her. But as Nina was leaving, tragedy struck. She was hit by a car. Regaining consciousness, she found herself amidst the very money confiscated earlier. In a twist of events, it was revealed that the officers involved in the money seizure, including Igor, were corrupt. It became evident that Igor had orchestrated a scheme, playing both Nina and Wolto's team against each other, all to pilfer Beauty Queen's wealth for himself. Concurrently, the individuals known as Deuce and Dragon, who had earlier commissioned Wolto's men to abduct Max, were shockingly revealed to be Igor in a cunning disguise. It became clear that Igor's master plan was to set the various parties against each other. Having secured the funds, he then instructed his accomplices to eliminate Nina swiftly. As Igor readied his departure, his car was unexpectedly fired upon from behind by Nina. She had, impressively, taken out all of Igor's allies. In a desperate bid for survival, Igor bolted from the vehicle just before it erupted in flames, causing the amassed wealth within to scatter everywhere. Fast-forwarding a bit, Nina approaches Beauty Queen's base, with a portion of the money salvaged from the fiery explosion. Beauty Queen contemplates eliminating Nina due to the insufficient amount she brought. However, she hesitates, recognizing the potential threat Nina poses. Consequently, Max is set free. Nina, prioritizing his safety, promptly books an online taxi to take Max home. On their way, a vengeful Igor confronts them, resentful about the stolen funds. During their heated exchange, Nina demands to know the true motive behind Igor's actions. He confesses it was all for the sake of providing a lavish lifestyle for his estranged family. Infuriated by his justification, Nina savagely beats him, leaving him in a critical state. Soon after, police sirens approach, prompting Nina and Max to make a hasty exit. Shortly, Nina ensures Max is safely returned to his adoptive parents. A few days pass, and as Nina spends a quiet moment at home, she receives an unexpected visit from Max. He expresses his intention to frequent her residence, acknowledging and cherishing the bond they share as biological mother and son. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.